Today we geek out about Get Adler. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Lee with Geek City USA here, and today we are going to talk about a game by Caper Games called Get Adler. Now, Get Adler is a social deduction card game for 4 to 8 players in which one group of people are playing the investigators and the other person or group is playing Agent Adler and his cohorts, and the inspectors are trying to arrest Agent Adler, whereas Agent Adler is trying to escape with the top secret documents. We're going to take you over here. I'll give you a brief rundown on how the game plays, and we will come back and I'll give you our thoughts on the game. Alright guys, this is Get Adler, a deduction card game. I have this set up right now for 4 players. Each player is going to have a player mat. If you play with a full 8, there are enough player mats for everybody. And if you look on the back of the player mat, there's a card reference that tells you what each of the cards in the game do, as well as, if you look here, there's a count for based on how many players, how many copies of each card are there. So for example, if you look at the bomb, this is what it does. All heroes lose a turn when Adler plays a bomb, but there's 1 in the deck for 4 players, 2 for 5, 2 for 6, and so on. And then each player is going to have one of these, but if you only play 4 players, everybody can get 2 if you want, and that way they don't have to flip these cards over. But you know, if you are playing with a full 8, or you know, if you only have even if you're playing with 4, you can always flip these over to see what's on the other side. These aren't going to stay face down if you don't want to, or you know, just face up. But you'll look here, these have values here, so each person that you play as has a hat, hair, eye, and coat color. And there's going to be a chance to ask questions if you play a card with this location. And you can ask your opponent, or who may be your opponent, like I can ask, if I'm this guy, I can ask this guy here, hey, do you have a black hat? And they have to answer with just a simple yes or a simple no. So if they say no, well then I know that person's not going to be Agent Adler. And in the spirit of the game, you have to answer truthfully, as well as you can't say, yeah, I have, or you can't say yes, but my hair might be brown, or I might have green eyes. You can't do that. Just, you know, you got to keep it honest when you play a social deduction game. So anyway, you're going to give each player one of these. Each player is going to start out with 7 cards, and the first player is going to put the clock tiles by them. Now, there are 7 of these, and they go from hour 1 all the way to hour 7. You have 7 hours or 7 turns in order to discover who Adler is. Now, you see the first 3 of these are yellow or gold, and the last ones are blue. Now basically what that means is the first 3 turns of the game, you may not attempt to arrest Adler. You have to wait until you're in the later part of the game. And then what Adler needs to do in order to basically win the game as Adler would be to make it a full 7 rounds and end the game with a card that is a top secret document. So it will look like one of these. So at the end of the 7th round, if the person who is Agent Adler has one of these in his hand or her hand, they are the winner of the game. So let's set this back down here. Now there are multiple different card types. There are the top secret documents that I showed you. The other cards I will show you as I do like a brief turn overview or a couple turn run through. But you just have to know that there are a couple of cards. There's arrest cards, obviously, which are for the agents to arrest Adler. Those are absolutely worthless cards for Adler to have. And there are top secret document cards, which the person who plays Adler needs to have, which are absolutely worthless for the agents, or I should say the inspectors. And there are also cards that will let you look at other players' hands or take a card from their hand, as well as there are going to be guns and location cards, and I'll explain those a little bit. Those will become handy when you're doing an arrest, and I'll get to that. So we're going to start with player 1. Well, first let's flip over who everybody is. Now this obviously you wouldn't do this when you're playing the game, but for the sake of a video on how to play the game, it helps if you at home know who the good guys and the bad guys are. So we'll start with Constable Townsend. Now he's going to take his hand of 7 cards and we'll look at it, but first thing he's going to draw a card. And you're always going to draw a card and play a card. Now he has a top secret document, he has an arrest card, here's a gun card if he needs to have a shootout with Adler. This card here, the magnifying glass, this lets you look at another player's entire hand. Here's another gun and some question marks. So we have choices. As Constable Townsend here, we can discard a top secret card. Now we could do that in hopes that we tell all of the other people at the table, hey guys, I'm not the agent. I'm not the bad guy, or I'm not Agent Adler, because there's a good guy agent here too. But I'm not the bad guy, so don't come at me. But there's also these question mark cards, and that is what will help us figure out who's who. So let's say to start, he is going to play a question mark card, and he will ask the person that's next, do you have a black hat? Now, Inspector Sharp, we're going to look here, and he's going to say, yes, I do. So now, as Constable Townsend, I'm going to assume he could be Agent Adler, as well as these other players at the table are going to think so as well. So now we're going to take player 2's turn, Inspector Sharp. We'll draw a card, and we look at the hand, and we have, so there's nothing that we can really do to deflect our potential guilt right now, but we can, well, let's play a question mark. And Inspector Sharp, we will ask the last player, or actually we will ask this player here. Let's just do it that way. Do you have a black hat? At which this player would say, yes, I do. So now everybody at the table knows one of these two players is Agent Adler. So we'll go to player 3's turn. And so you see here we have the arrest card, which are useless for this guy. This is a location card. This helps you to escape. We have a couple top secret documents. We have a lot of top secret documents. So what he's going to do to kind of prove face is he's going to say, I'm going to discard that. So obviously you guys are going to think that I'm not the bad guy, because why would I discard what I need to survive? So we'll go to Agent Gold here, and we'll look at her hand. And she's got a lot of arrest cards, which we can't use right now. We've got a couple of escape cards, locations, and a gun, a search. She is going to discard a top secret card because it's useless to her as well. Fortunately, she didn't have a question mark card, so she couldn't ask either of those guys a question. So the first hour is up. Now we will go to hour 2. So Constable Townsend, he's feeling a little cheeky here. He wants to get one of these bad guys. So he's going to play a question mark card, and he's going to go down the list here, and he's going to say, let's see, black hat, you. Do you have black hair? Well, I'm Inspector Sharp, and I look here, and I'll show you guys on this. I'm Inspector Sharp. No, I have brown hair. So I would just say no. All right, ding, 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 ding. I think you're Agent Adler. We all know it now at the table. So, okay, Inspector Sharp's turn. He's going to show his hand. We have to draw a card. Now, he wants to play an arrest card on Adler, but he can't. But what he'll do is, well, he's going to take a look at this guy's hand. So he's going to look and say, okay, he's got this kind of escape card, so I know I need to hopefully get one. He's got a couple of arrest cards, some top secret document cards. So obviously we know that this guy's a bad guy. So now it's his turn. He's going to draw a card. Well, we need to start boning up on our cards, hopefully getting some escape cards. So he's going to get rid of an arrest. Actually, he'll hold on to those because he gets to discard those when he's revealed. So he'll play a question mark card, and he'll just say, you know, hey, do you have brown hair? And he'll say yes. All right, we'll go to Agent Gold, who will draw up. So she's going to stock up on these location cards and the arrest cards. She'll play this card as well. She wants to look at Adler's hand. We don't really care what it is right now because we're going through it, so we'll get rid of this. Constable Townsend now, it's his turn. He gets to draw up a card. So this is a secret identity card, or actually a disguise card. So this is really good for Agent Adler to have, because if he ever replies or responds to an arrest with one of these, he immediately escapes the confrontation. But this is going to do Townsend no good, so he's just going to discard the card. Now everybody's happy because they now know that there's no chance of Agent Adler of having this disguise card because there's only one in the deck. So things are looking good for the good guys. And I'll be honest with you, usually when I play this game, it does not go so smoothly for the good guys. It's looking pretty good for them right now. So all right, but by all means, it could still be Adler's game. He just has to outlast the bad guy, or the good guys. So we'll draw up here for Inspector Sharp, and he is going to want to hold on to the arrest cards and the locations. We don't really care about the binoculars or the question mark. So he's just going to discard this, and we'll say he looks at this person's hand just to know what they have. Now, you want to be fair in the spirit of the game, I think, and not say, hey, Agent Gold has these cards, because yeah, it's a little cheap. But so we'll go over to Adler. He won't. This is good for him. This is good. A couple of arrest cards. We'll discard his question mark card, and it doesn't matter. We can ask a question. You know, is your hat blue? Yes. Okay. Good for you. So now we'll go here, and the real excitement's going to start in a minute. Ooh, she has another arrest card. Those are going to be key, but we want to hold on to these cards to chase after Adler. So she's actually going to go ahead and discard an arrest card. Now, this is the where all the cards are played now, because we can play the arrest card, so we can officially try to arrest Agent Adler. So we will draw up our card, and we are going to go right out there. We are going to play an arrest card. Now, you set this in front of who you think Adler is. So we'll play it, and he says, I'm going to arrest you. Now, if that is not the case, if it is a false accusation, then the person who did the accusation and the person they accused have to lose one turn. So let's say he tried to arrest Inspector Sharp. Well, they would not get to take their next turns. But because he guessed correctly, we would now flip all identity cards, and all the cards are on the table. Now it's up to Agent Adler to escape. So Agent Adler is going to look at his hand here. Now, because he's revealed, he can immediately discard all arrest cards. I'm discarding those in the wrong stack. Immediately discard those and draw back up. So it's not the best of hands for him. So he is going to play this to try to escape. Now, based on the cards left in his hand, Constable Townsend needs to be able to play one of those cards to chase after him, which he cannot do. But because Agent Gold has one, she may chase after him. So she can play this card, and now she is officially chasing after Agent Adler. She is hot on his tail. So now these two are currently the ones that are active. So now Agent Adler, it's not going to look good for him. He has a gun. So he has officially pulled a gun on the agent. Now the agent has to play a gun. So the agent has now played a gun and tied it up. Now Adler, you see here, does not have any more guns. So he could say, I don't have anything else to play. Now it's up to Agent Gold. Agent Gold has to have another gun to fire back. Agent Gold doesn't. Therefore, Agent Gold has lost that shootout, and Adler has escaped. So all cards are now discarded, and now everybody draws back up to 7 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Adler, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll draw 2, 6, 7. And I think we need 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that worked out for Agent Adler by the skin of his teeth, and he better hope he drew something good here. So now we have Inspector Sharp. Inspector Sharp's going to look at his deck. So he's got a couple of escape cards. So he is going to play the arrest card now, and he is going to arrest Agent Adler. But we didn't draw up a card, so we're going to want to draw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, good. So now Agent Adler has to play an escape or play a gun. What do we have here? Oh no. So this is an awful hand for Agent Adler. So this usually doesn't happen. Agent Adler cannot escape. Therefore, Agent Adler is officially arrested and the good guys win. So now, if he was able to escape, we would continue on and continue on until the very end of the game, at which point, if Agent Adler, let's say that this arrest failed for whatever reason, and we got through the very last round, and Agent Gold doesn't have anything to do an arrest on Agent Adler, and then this is up, then Agent Adler would have escaped because he has top secret documents. But that is a really quick overview of how to play the game and an example on how to play the game. Hopefully it came through. I mean, it's hard to do a social deduction game with one player, but I'll tell you, as far as social deduction games go, and I'll get to this in my review, This is probably my favorite social deduction game I've played, simply because it doesn't feel contrived. And we'll touch on that in the review part. So we'll take you back up top and I'll give you my thoughts on the game. All right, so that was Get Adler. So let me start off by saying that typically a social deduction game is not my favorite kind of game. The majority of them feel very limited as far as what the gameplay is. All you're trying to do is not pick the person that's going to fail your missions. And once you figure that out, there's not a whole lot of game left. You know, if I figure out those two guys are the bad guys, I know I'm not going to invite them onto the mission, and I'll be fine. And to me, that always feels like there was something lacking in those games. There wasn't a lot of tension. Get Adler is the complete opposite. So first of all, there's a lot more tension because you're not simply trying to fail a mission or pass a mission. You're trying to figure out who everybody is. You don't know who's on your team. Now that's typical of a lot of social deduction games, but you don't know who's a good guy, you don't know who the bad guy is, and it's all about how you play your cards. And you're able to play cards to play yes-no games to see who each player might be, which to me was a lot more interesting than trying to pass a mission. And once you find out who the evil agent is, who Adler is, the game doesn't end because there's so much more to it. You figured it out. Now you got to catch them. Now you have to stop them. So to me, that instantly more than doubles the type of game or the amount of game to this social deduction game. And even if you are found out as Adler, you can plan your cards with escape cards to get away, the guns in order to have a shootout with the agents. And there's a lot more game and it's a lot more fun. Unlike other social deduction games, Get Adler has as much game with the 4-player count as it does with the higher player count. Now, I've never played it with 8 players. I played it up to 7, but we've played multiple games with it. And the low player counts, you don't feel like you're missing anything with the game. There is as much game with 4 players as we experienced with a higher player count. And that's not typical with a social deduction game. Usually a social deduction game is going to be okay with fewer players, and it'll get better with more players. And again, I speak from a little bit of a jaded perspective because I don't like a lot of other social deduction games, but Get Adler plays as well with 4 as it does with a higher player count, and I thought that was a huge plus to the game. I really like the art of the game. I feel like it's very timeless and it helps to capture the theme of the game. And I also like the fact that these cards are gold bordered instead of black bordered, so it helps to mitigate any kind of wear on the cards. When you're playing a social deduction game, you want to keep your identities hidden. It's really minimized the ability to see any markings on the cards. So I thought that was a huge plus to the game. We also felt that Get Adler was more accessible to younger ages as well, whereas a lot of times social deduction games are a little bit difficult for the younger ages to get into because they haven't quite mastered that deception and lying and cheating and getting good at it, thankfully, I think. But I feel like with Get Adler, there's more game to it than just simply trying to sneak into a mission and, you know, play a failure card to get through it. You're trying to figure out who they are, they're trying to figure out who you are, and there's a lot more to do. So I feel like it didn't depend solely on the skill to deceive people, which I thought was great. Also, the replayability of this game I think is very high because you're always dealing out your roll cards randomly. The decks are always going to be dealt out randomly. You never know what you're going to get. Adler might get a hand from the very beginning that's super slanted in his direction. Next time it might be harder, so there's always a different gameplay, I feel. So I definitely think there's a high replayability here. All in all, we've really enjoyed Get Adler. This is easily my favorite social deduction game. I've enjoyed every time we've played it. There's so much more game to it than a typical social deduction game, and it's easy to teach, it's easy to set up, accessible by all sorts of people. There's really nothing not to like about this game. If you are even on the fence with social deduction games, I would recommend still checking this game out because it is a lot of fun and it looks great to boot. All right, guys, that's it. I'm Lee with Geek City USA. Thanks for hanging out with us. Please subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the game if you've played this. Also, check us out on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. We're all over the place on social media. We love to interact with you guys, so definitely check us out there. Once again, thanks for hanging out. I'm Lee, and we'll see you next time.